The wind on the Oklahoma plains doesn't just blow, it bites. It cuts through denim, through canvas, and through the thin layers of hope that thousands of people cling to. In January 2026, a monster winter storm swept across the central United States. It buried Oklahoma City and Tulsa under ice and snow. Temperatures plummeted to 13 degrees below zero. The governor declared a state of emergency. The National Guard was on standby. For the average citizen, it was a time to stay inside, turn up the heat, and wait it out. But for the 4,000 Oklahomans living without a roof, the storm wasn't just a weather event. It was a deadline. Because this winter, the cold isn't the only thing hunting them. We are witnessing a collision of 3 disasters at once. A record-breaking blizzard, a massive cut in federal housing funding, and a controversial new state policy that gives the unhoused a brutal choice. Go to a shelter that might be full, or go to jail. Welcome to Oklahoma Homeless Crisis 2026, Winter Storms, Freezing Streets, State Emergency. Today, we are going to brave the freezing streets of Tulsa to see the overflow shelters. We are going to investigate the camp or jail ultimatum that critics call a criminalization of survival. And we are going to expose how a shift in Washington, D.C. has left the most vulnerable Oklahomans out in the cold. This is the uncomfortable truth about the Sooner State. To understand the panic on the ground, you have to look at the thermometer. On January 25th, 2026, the Arctic front hit. The wind chill dropped to dangerous levels. In these conditions, frostbite sets in within 10 minutes. We traveled to Tulsa, where the city scrambled to open emergency warming stations. We visited the Center of Hope, operated by the Salvation Army. It was packed. People were sleeping on mats, on chairs, in the hallways. We met a woman named Sarah outside the new inclement weather shelter on Admiral Boulevard. She was shaking, clutching a plastic bag of clothes. They told me they have room, Sarah said, her teeth chattering. But I have a dog. He's my only family. Some places won't take him. So do I leave him to freeze and go inside? Or do we both freeze together? This is the choice thousands are making. But this year, the choice has been taken away. Enter Operation Safe. State and local leaders have ramped up enforcement of anti-camping laws. The directive is clear. You cannot stay in the tent. We rode along with an outreach team in Oklahoma City. They weren't just handing out blankets, they were delivering warnings. You have to move, they told a veteran living under an I-40 overpass. If you are here tonight, you will be arrested. The veteran, a man named Mike who served in Iraq, looked at the officer. Arrested for what? For surviving? The shelter is 3 miles away. I can't walk that far in this snow with my bad leg. If you arrest me, at least I'll be warm in the cell. This is the camp or jail reality. It turns the jail system into the de facto homeless shelter of Oklahoma, and it creates a terrifying game of cat and mouse during a blizzard. People aren't moving to shelters. They are moving deeper into the woods, further away from help, just to avoid the police. But why is the system so overwhelmed right now? The answer lies in a quiet disaster that happened in November 2025. The Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, issued new guidelines. They shifted funding away from the Housing First model that has been used for decades. For years, Housing First meant getting people into an apartment, no questions asked, and then dealing with their addiction or mental health. It worked. It kept people alive. But the new rules cap spending on long-term housing. They prioritize short-term, conditional shelter. We spoke to a caseworker in Oklahoma City who asked to remain anonymous. It's a catastrophe, she told us. We have 150 people in permanent supportive housing right now who might lose their funding. These are people with severe disabilities. If they lose those apartments, they are back on the street. In this weather, they will die. This is the funding collapse. It is a bureaucratic decision made in a warm office in D.C. that is freezing people to death in Oklahoma. We tracked the impact to the rural areas. Oklahoma isn't just cities. It's vast rural counties. In the small towns, there are no shelters. There is no center of hope. We found a family living in a minivan in a Walmart parking lot near Lawton. They had taped cardboard over the windows to insulate against the wind. The father, David, was a construction worker. No work when the ground is frozen. David said. "We ran out of gas last night. We just huddled together under the blankets. I told the kids it was an adventure, but I was watching their breath, making sure it didn't stop." This is the hidden crisis. The families who are too proud to ask for help or who live in places where no help exists. The state of emergency declaration released funds for salt trucks and power line repairs, but for the human infrastructure, the cracks are widening. We visited the burn unit at a local hospital. They are seeing a spike in frostbite cases, but not just from the cold. They are seeing burns from people trying to stay warm. We heard stories of people lighting fires inside tents, people using propane heaters in enclosed cars. The desperation leads to carbon monoxide poisoning and terrible accidents. It's not just the cold, a nurse told us. It's the desperation. People are making fatal mistakes because they are terrified. And amidst this, the political rhetoric is heating up. State lawmakers are proposing a bill for the 2026 legislative session that would strip funding from shelters that don't comply with strict new state regulations. It is a move to centralize control, but critics say it will force smaller, religious-based shelters to close their doors exactly when they are needed most. It is a war on the poor, fought on two fronts, the legislative floor and the frozen pavement. We went back to Tulsa, to the overflow shelter at the Be Heard movement. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos. Volunteers were arriving with cots, with soup, with dry socks. We saw two sisters, Doris and Charlotte, who brought their own cots to the shelter, just so they could volunteer overnight. "We couldn't sleep knowing they were out there," Doris said. This is the other side of Oklahoma, the Oklahoma standard. The neighbor helping neighbor spirit that emerges in disasters. But charity is not policy. A bowl of soup warms you for an hour. A policy change can freeze you for a lifetime. As the sun went down over the frozen Arkansas River, the temperature began to drop again. The wind howled through the empty streets of downtown Tulsa. We saw a police cruiser stop near a pile of blankets on the sidewalk. The officer got out. He didn't have handcuffs this time. He had a warning. You have to move. The pile of blankets stirred. A hand came out. It pointed to the sky, then to the ground. There was nowhere left to go. Oklahoma is in a state of emergency. But the emergency isn't just the snow. It is the decision to treat homelessness as a crime rather than a crisis. It is the decision to cut funding for housing while building more jail cells. As we look at the ice accumulating on the power lines, we have to ask, when the thaw comes, what will we find underneath? Will we find a community that came together? Or will we find the casualties of a system that decided some lives were worth less than others? Thank you for watching this investigation into the Oklahoma crisis. It is a cold reality, but we cannot look away. If you believe that survival should not be illegal, please asterisk, like asterisk this video. It helps us expose the truth. And please, subscribe to America's Uncomfortable Truth, We will continue to document the reality of our nation, no matter the weather. Leave a comment below. Do you think housing first is the right solution, or should there be conditions? Stay warm, check on your neighbors, and never stop demanding the truth.